בסנוגים, ברבורים וסלו ודוגים, ליצני בסנוגים, ברבורים וסלו ודוגים. איי נה לה 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 לה.
Hello everyone, we're starting a new series today about eating and drinking in shuls. It's far more common in the last few years to see people walk into shuls with water bottles, big coffee mugs, and the question is it allowed or not? It all comes down to a contradiction between Gemaras. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah, Daf Kavchet Amud Aleph into Amud Bet, says that you can't have lightheadedness in a shul. There's a certain solemnity that's obligatory in shuls, and the Gemara spells out you don't eat in them and you don't drink in them. So we can end the series here and basically say 100% forbidden, because within that Gemara there's only two exceptions to the rule. Number one, the shuls outside of Israel, says the Gemara, al tanai heinasuyim, they're conditional, and therefore certain conditions could be made regarding certain things and leniencies you're allowed to do in them. But still, you're not allowed to have kalut rosh, lightheadedness. And perhaps what the Gemara said earlier, that lightheadedness means not to eat and drink, would apply even there. Number two, it says that if you're a full-time Torah student, chachamim v'talmidehem mutarin, then you can eat and drink in the Beis Medrash. So basically for us who come to shul 3 times a day, you're not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to drink in a shul, and we can end here. However, there's a Gemara in Psachim Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph, which you all know very well, especially if you grew up outside of Israel or you still live outside of Israel, and that is coming into shul Friday night, in which they make kiddush. The Gemara says, Lama li lekutshe bebei knishta. Shmuel asks, why do we make kiddush in shul? La'apuke orchim yedei chavatan de'achlu v'shanu v'ganu bebei knishta. In order to fulfill the obligation of kiddush for the guests, would eat and drink and sleep in the shul. As we go from the Babylonian Talmud to the Yerushalmi Talmud, there's 2 Gemaras that talk about the fact that people ate in shul, especially on a very big event called Ibur Hashana, when they would make a year into a leap year. In Masechet Sanhedrin, Perek Chet, subdivision 2, Yochanan, Havi Alil Knishte, Betzafra, he would go up to the shul in the morning, Umelaket Pirurin Va'achil, and he would gather the crumbs and eat in the shul. Ve'amar, and he said, Yechelki man dekadesh yarcha. So we know that during Ibur Hashana, when they made the year into a leap year, they ate in the shul. And indeed, what's inferred from this Gemara is spelled out, halacha lemaise, in the Gemara in Psachim, dealing with Pesach. The Gemara asks a simple question. Rabbi Yirmiyah comes into the Beis Medrash and asks, do you need to check them for chametz? If indeed you're forbidden from eating in a shul, so maybe they're a place that never has any chametz in them. And the Gemara answers, you do have to check them for chametz. Because first of all, the guests would eat there on Shabbos, as the Korban Ha'eda explains. And number 2, Barosh Chodesh, as the Korban Ha'eda says, so basically we have a contradiction between Gemaras. The Gemara in Megillah says absolutely not. The Gemara in Psachim says we only make kiddush in shul Friday night in order to fulfill the obligation for the guests that ate in shul. Not to mention eating in shul when they made a leap year, according to the Yerushalmi. Contradiction between Gemaras. So our behavior in shul will be dictated based on how the Rishonim dealt with this contradiction between Gemaras. So let's go through 3 answers today. 2 of them are very not relevant, and 1 of them very relevant. The first answer is brought by the Ravya, one of the Rishonim Ashkenaz, who comes along and says that the Gemara that says that you're allowed to eat in shul, those guests were Talmidei Chachamim, who were allowed, as the Gemara says, to eat and drink in shul. Very hard to understand that answer, simply because the Gemara in Psachim doesn't say a word about it being Talmidei Chachamim. It just says Orchim, guests. So, hard answer. Answer number 2, the Tosfos declines and says, Ein l'taretz the mishum biva v'haya. Don't say it shows outside of Israel. That's not a good answer. But what he says is not a good answer, the Ravya says could be an answer. And the Ravya says, indeed, the shuls outside of Israel are tnayim asuyin. You can make conditions. One of them is you're allowed to eat and drink in them. And the Shuta Rashba from the Rishonim Sfarad, comes and says, Gam yesh lefaresh, you can definitely give an answer. שהולכים בבית הכנסת ממש, שבבית יש בבבל תנאיהם, תנאי הוא כך, שאם הוצרכו אנשי העיר להקל שם עניים או להשכיבם שם, מותר. So basically, the Gemara that says no is talking about shuls in Israel. The Gemara that says yes is shuls outside of Israel. Once again, very hard to understand because the Gemara does not say we're talking about shuls in Bavel. They're assuming it, but it's not there. So therefore, we'll go to answer number 3 that the Tosfot does accept. And that is that even though you're allowed to make Kiddush in shul, because achila v'shtiyah shel mitzvah mutar, you can do a mitzvah eating act, or a mitzvah-oriented act in shul, just like in the Yerushalmi, when they did Ibur Hashana, when they made a leap year, they ate and they drank. However, that's only the Kiddush cup. But the actual eating of the Shabbos meal was in a side room in the building, but it wasn't in the sanctuary. That's the answer the Tosfot gives, and he's not alone. The Ravya gives that answer, also positing that maybe the Chazan had an actual house in the shul, an apartment. The Rosh gives that answer as well, as does the Maharam Chalava, one of the Rishonim Sfarad we actually have Amsachim, and the Shuta Rashba as well posits it at one of the possible answers. Based on that, absolutely forbidden to eat in shul, and we make Kiddush because they ate in a side room. If that's the case, so how did he make Kiddush? After all, Shmuel says in the Gemara, Ein Kiddush ela b'makom suda, you have to make Kiddush where you eat. So how did they make Kiddush in the sanctuary, and they ate in a different room? So there's basically 3 answers to that question. The Shuta Rashba quotes the Ritz Geat that says, Imor emakomo rishon mutar. You can make Kiddush in a different room as long as you see the ballroom. And that's what happens in many shuls. They make Kiddush Shabbos morning in the shul because the ballroom is right outside and they see the kugel from the sanctuary. Answer number 2 of Tosfos is mimakom mimakom bechad bayit. Namely, within the same house, under the same roof, you can make Kiddush in, let's say, the top floor and then eat on the bottom floor. And that's the answer that the Maharam Chalava gives as well as the Smag. The third answer that the Smag gives in the name of Rav Nisim Gaon is an ingenious answer, in my opinion, and that is based on a Gemara in Mesechet Sukkah. The Gemara says that it's absolutely forbidden to eat in the Sukkah on the last day of Yom Tiv of Sukkot. So in Israel, that would be Shmini Atzeret, and Chutz La'aretz it would be what you call Simchas Torah, the 9th day. Well, what happens if Sukkato Erev Alav? If you like the Sukkah, it's nice weather outside. The Gemara says, I got a solution for you. Make Kiddush in the house, but you can eat in the Sukkah. How do you do that? Answer is, as long as you have in mind that you're going to eat somewhere else, it's okay to make Kiddush in one place and eat somewhere else. And that's the answer that the Ravya gives, as well as the Meiri in his succinct way. So to sum up, we saw Gemaras that contradict each other if you're allowed to eat and drink in shul, and we saw 3 answers today. Number 1, only Talmidei Chachamim are allowed to eat in shul, not us mortals. Number 2, only shuls outside of Israel, an answer the Tosfos didn't like. Or number 3, they didn't eat in shul, they ate in a side room. How did they fulfill Kiddush? Either A, they saw the place that they're going to eat, and that's good enough for Kiddush B'Kom Sudah. B, it's under the same roof. Or C, as long as you have in your mind that you're going to eat there, that's good enough. But to sum up today, no eating or drinking in shul whatsoever. It could be in the shul building, but not in the sanctuary, unless you're a Talmid Chacham, or maybe if it's a shul outside of Israel.